I'm glad you brought that up because what you said, take the first step towards digital. By now, you should have, our members of our audience have taken that step already. Is it too late, Margot? Is it too late?
No, it's not too late. In fact, they should do it now. Because, you know, they say you either digitize or die.
Wow.
But they also need to understand that the business is not purely online, especially for retailers.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. There is really an online to offline component and an offline to online. The other concept, if you want, or principle that we embrace in our business strategy is an omni-channel mindset.
Okay.
It's even before the pandemic, we already knew delivery should be there, drive-through should be there. We even have dessert kiosks.
Right.
And then, of course, the store. It was such a major shift. I mean, over 70% of our transactions would go through our front counter before. When that door is closed because of restrictions, things really shifted to delivery and drive-through. And until today, you know, that seems to be the makeup. Although as dine-in opens, of course, diba, that's extra business that we need to get back to our pre-pandemic levels kasi that's the missing element. But we don't think that when dine-in reopens na mawawala yung delivery business or mawawala yung drive-through because habits have already been formed. And we think that these are permanent behaviors already. So anyway, the point about digital, there has to be an understanding of e-commerce and having an e-commerce platform because accessibility is what people want. It's not the technology. It's not because of the pandemic. You have to make your brand or your retail business accessible. And it expands your market, di ba? Because your physical store, mahal kaya ng renta ngayon. So,
rental assistance naman.
So you have a physical store. And then by having a virtual store, you actually shave off so much capital, whether it's building the store or the rent, and you make your brand accessible to those who may not be able to be in the city where your store is. Okay, and then of course you have the last mile services for delivery, for the logistics providers. So it makes the whole ecosystem work.
Okay, with all these things, all these initiatives, do I sense that everything has to come from a very supportive leadership?
Absolutely. Well, you know, I'm very grateful. That's probably why I've stayed for close to 18 years, diba? And that my boss took a risk on me despite having moved so many jobs. He really empowers me. And even when I was just marketing head, and he set me up for success. He didn't move me immediately to a managing director position. He made me deputy managing director first. And I didn't handle all the departments, but I did form our group called the Customer Experience Group in 2015. And that Customer Experience Group starts with the strategy, marketing, operations, supported by supply chain and technology. So yung frustration ko nung una na hindi nila naiintindihan ng e-commerce, no hawak ko na yung mga department na nabuhay yung digital journey namin ng 2016. So we were able to really move fast. Like in 2018, that's when we started cashless. And then partnering with third-party operators like Grab and Food Panda. Again, wala pang pandemic to. 2018 yan lahat nangyari. And that's when we started to convert to our next-gen stores. And then 2019 was actually a banner year for us. I became managing director after 3 years as deputy. That was in 2018. Okay, awa naman ng Diyos, pagka upo ko ng managing director, nagkaroon ng sugar tax at nawalan kami ng asukal sa Coca-Cola. Okay, ang swerte ko, di ba? Tapos, after that crisis, sino namang mag-aakalang ako din naman ang MD at haharap ako sa pandemic na ganito?
Sa gobyerno pa din. Di ba?
Oo, di ba? So, but I'm so grateful to the team. I think all the philosophies on transformation that I had shared, it's about collaboration, it's about innovation, it's curiosity and learning agility. Lumabas talaga lahat. Ang galing nung team during the pandemic. And you know, it was, I know it was when a lot of I'm sure your members were also severely impacted. We were a bit more fortunate because we had innovations in place that helped us survive.
You actually answered my questions already of what did you do during the pandemic to cope with it. So I'm gonna bring the question to, you're a professional manager. You're still within a company that's privately owned. How's the dynamics of that? So you said Kenneth is supportive. That's great. But as you give advice to our audience and where we have a lot of family corporations, should professional managers start coming in already? How do you prepare and future-proof the companies?
Okay, let's start with the first insight on the alignment of values. I think it's not only hiring if you want experts in their fields or professional managers. Maaring you hire them to join the company, or you hire them initially maybe to consult with them.
Okay.
There are also professional consultants. Kailangan your values are aligned or it will not work. And I think my boss, Kenneth, so I'm really lucky that he empowers me, but his family's values are also aligned with my own personal values. And that also defines kasi the company values. Excellence is a value for McDonald's. So they're the type of family rin that they will not cut corners. They also don't like a half-baked job. Diba? So they also raise the bar for themselves. But I think the fortunate situation I find myself in is it's the best of both worlds, CJ. Unang-una, McDonald's is a global brand.
Okay, yes.
So to a certain degree, para siyang hindi family corp. Para siyang multinational.
Yes.
Global brand, global systems. We're able to interact with other countries, other markets, and share best practices. It pushes us also to, raise our game. But the other half of the story is it's a family corporation, so it's not cold. Alam mo yun, di ba minsan pag multinational,
yes,
hindi ka nag-perform, you're fired. Di ba ganon eh?
You're a number.
Oo. So, andun yung comfort and security of a family, but the discipline and rigor of and discipline of our multinational. Because we are a global brand, there are standards we have to follow, especially for food. And there are standards we have to follow when it comes to our franchising business, to employees. So I think yun yung at least lucky place that I find myself in.
That's good.
But I think professional managers, going back to my other principle on diversity in thought, it gives you another perspective. Because in the end, which is my other point on self-awareness, you have to know, favorite ano namin to phrase ng boss ko, I don't know what I don't know. Totoo, di ba? Socrates yan ha.
Naku, okay.
Oh, it's true. You really don't know what you don't know until someone from the outside
Tells.
or maybe somebody from another generation makes you realize, oo nga no, parang, and I think it's because it's human nature. And part of being self-aware is knowing your own biases. Sometimes we think, like ako, galing akong marketing head. Nag-iba na yung role ko. So, iba na yung marketing head ngayon. I always tell myself, remove your biases. Kasi, di ba? Baka may recommendation siya, hindi ako nag-agree. Tapos magbibigay ako ng argument na, pero hindi, ganito yan. Hindi, ilang taong ka nang hindi marketing, hindi na ganyan. Diba? Medyo minsan outdated na yung alam natin. So, I think we should, ano yun, they call it an anchoring bias.
Okay.
You anchor on your own knowledge or
Right.
previous knowledge that was never adjusted. So change is constant. Our customers change, their needs change. It changed even faster because of a global pandemic. So if you think about it, parang nag-reset yung buong mundo, di ba? It is a major reset. We went through this 19-month pause. And then during the pause, we reflected on our lives, on our priorities, on our businesses, ourselves. But now we're in that point of a reset. So if that's, parang sayang naman, di ba? Those 19 months of reflection, if you're still gonna be the way you were 19 months ago, parang, hello, hindi ka ba naapektuhan ng global pandemic? Parang, ang swerte mo, anong bansa ka nakatira at di ka naapektuhan at ganyan ka pa rin.
So you have to change. You have to change already. You have to evolve. Darwinian experience.
Yeah, you really need to. I don't know what unprecedented event is even required to make somebody realize this is the time to change. This is the time to reset without losing your, if you want, your brand, your basic brand values.
Baka people are scared. Baka people are scared to make that change.
Maybe, but if they don't and everybody else does, they will be left behind.
Okay. I'll go back again to organizational dynamics. So we finished the intergenerational, we finished the family. There's one point in the family. Should family members automatically go into the business, or should they be sent somewhere else first, then come back to the business? Let the professional managers train them. Your thoughts on that?
Okay. Well, for us, it's only really Dr. George Yang, the father, who is our founder and chairman, but he doesn't really involve himself in the day-to-day. We update him how it's doing. He's more involved in his career as a tenor. Okay. And his
shift talaga yun,
yeah. I think also he's at the stage where, he's really giving back. It is his son, who is my boss, Kenneth, our CEO, who's the only family member involved. Okay, so each of the sons have their own different businesses. And now, if, the next generation, after Kenneth,
third generation,
they are very well educated, very intelligent family. And even their children, his children, okay, very intelligent, very impressive education. But no one is being forced into the business. I think they respect also their children na buhay nila yun di ba? Ano yung gusto mong gawin? Because I did ask that question as the head. I said, I would like to know the plans for your grandchildren, kay Dr. George, and your children, kay Kenneth. Because as I as we transform the organization and as we grow, as we also implement digital transformation, I also need to, parang if there is one member coming, I want to be given enough time to train and prepare them. Hindi naman pwedeng day one, di ba? Head ka na ng kumpanya.
Correct.
Even Kenneth, he wasn't head immediately. He went through crew. And then he had an operation stint, a purchasing stint, supply chain, and then a business development. Okay, so hindi naman siya kaagad straight to managing director. And ganun din siya, if the kids were interested, he will always tell me, patrabahuin mo yan sa tindahan. Yan ang first step nila. They should understand what happens in the store. Which he tells not just his children, but all of the employees, all of the heads. You need to know what's happening in the store or you will not be effective.
On-ground experience.
Yes, talagang
On-ground experience is important.
lumabas ka, as in, kausapin mo yung restaurant manager or magtrabaho ka sa tindahan or hindi mo naiintindihan. Hindi mo masosuportahan yung negosyo and hindi mo magagawa na maayos yung trabaho mo. Anyway, I'm not sure if all families think like that. Na ina-allow nila yung children, di ba, to do something else. Because I guess the big question is, sinong papatakbo ng negosyo? And I think that's where the professional managers come in, as you call it, or experts, if you want, who built their experience naman in the corporate world. And can now, and you know, CJ, there are many I have spoken to na parang after spending several years in a large multinational, yung next phase nila, they wanna help a Filipino corporation. They want to add value kasi sayang naman lahat ng nakuha kong training, di ba, sa isang Nestle o isang Unilever. Diba, kung hindi ko rin to maibabalik at maitutulong sa nangangailangan, which in the end also goes back rin naman to your contribution to the country.
That's right. That's
diba?
right.
Kasi I do, at least with our dealings in government, the feedback we get, and you can see it. You can see how the private sector, professional managers have a discipline and areas of expertise that really add value to the way, let's just look at vaccination, to the way the vaccination rollout was planned. Because government naman doesn't have a supply chain or logistics team. And yet, kailangan yun dun sa bakuna.
Correct. To get it out there quickly.
Yeah, so it is critical talaga to partner, you know, and that's where also the contributions of private sector come from, among many others. So when you look at the vaccination rollout, so I work closely with Pepot Miñana of Jollibee Foods Corporation. So they find it funny that, you know, McDonald's and Jollibee are working together, but the truth is, the vaccination center is exactly like our stores. The vaccine is also a perishable good.
Right.
That has to be transported in a cold chain. In fact, I think our chickens require pa nga a colder temperature than the vaccine. Okay, so, and yet, we are able to distribute that to hundreds, for Jollibee to thousands of stores in the Philippines, and the number of vaccinees that have to be jabbed by the LGU per day is like the number of customers we have to serve.
Right. That velocity is there.
It is a parallel, the perfect parallel. So we laugh about it, you know, Pepot and I, na parang bakit feeling ko nagpapatakot tayo ng pangalawang USR? Na dun sa isa, magkalaban kami. Yung sa isa, kailangan namin magtulungan.
Align kayo.
Oo. So, ano yun? And even manpower. Diba? When you need to have enough manpower for your restaurant or your vaccine center or your store. Ganon din yung mga prinsipyo.
You're already enumerating learnings from the pandemic, okay? Because everything is about suffering porn for the past 1 year, no? But aside from the things of digital, all these efficiencies, what else did you learn from the pandemic, both at a corporate level and as Margot, the mother, yourself as a person in this world?
Okay, on a corporate level, I mentioned earlier that you shouldn't forget who your company is, and you should go back to your core values. Uh, we were very clear that at the start of the crisis, the priority would be people, brand, and business. Unang-una yung people, safety, of course. And even in our campaign, we call it the M-Safe campaign. M-Safe. We believe that if we keep our people safe, in the stores especially, our customers will be safe. It has to start with your own bubble, and you have to keep that safe. So without hesitation, Kenneth Yang decided to give the vaccines for free, and we purchased them. And in every initiative where we could help the government and the private sector, we would always raise our hand. In fact, the most recent one is both Jollibee and McDonald's stores. We've already offered them as vaccination centers. So we have, Jollibee has in Santo Tomas, Batangas. We both have in Cagayan de Oro. And McDonald's is going to start soon in Zamboanga. And there are more stores coming in. And they're able to job about 300 to 380 a day.
That's a lot.
And I think they focused first on the 12 to 17. Maybe also because, maybe the teens feel a bit more relaxed, in a familiar environment.
Correct.
Like Jollibee and McDonald's. So, parang we're here talaga to help. Yung all competition aside, we cannot One of the learnings rin in corporate is cooperation, collaboration, and partnership. I'm talking about within our company, on how the team really collaborated to come up with innovations. Like, there are more bikers. So we already have about 8 stores with a bike and dine facility. And there are about 10 more stores coming in. And maybe about 50 stores that have bike racks, because we really welcome any kind of ride. Our drive-through is hindi lang siya 4-wheeled vehicles. Could be a motorcycle, could be a bicycle, could really be a kalesa if you want, diba? You're welcome to come through McDonald's drive-through. And then it's also cooperation with, I guess, the other private sector. And you learn, even if they're not in the same industry and they're not your direct competitor, but there are things you're able to practice associational thinking, as they say. Like, what did the airline industry do? They were even more badly hit,
right,
okay, than a retail industry. How did they survive? What did they do? What happened to their employees? Okay, how did they help them? So during the pandemic, I really benchmarked with my colleagues. And like you said, there's no playbook nga. And
it's actually Steven Tan. That's Steven Tan.
Si STT pala said.
Oh,
yeah, Steven said, no playbook. That's true. Even Steven, we would talk to each other. And you really had to parang go on a higher level, higher ground to help. Because if you don't, and kung talagang kanya-kanya ka mag-isip, or di ba yung, you won't move forward. But the spirit talaga of bayanihan came out.
For you personally. But,
personally,
what your learnings? What were your learnings?
It was, I called it a pause, right? It's like the great pause, they say. And it was really a pause because you were able to ask yourself, what do I spend my time on? Because kahit pa paano, nawala yung 2 hours ko in traffic eh. Diba? So may extra 2 hours ako. And because you were at home, hindi na yung pag-uwi mo, tulog na yung mga bata. Or hindi, matatanda na pala yung mga anak ko. Pag-uwi mo, wala pa sila sa bahay. Kasi nasa labas pa. Either gumigimik or nagtatrabaho din. So, I think, to me, in the early part of the pandemic, the moment of family bonding, which is over a meal, became more than the meal. It's really the time you get to connect and you get to update each other and you get to just get to know each other again. For myself lang, wag kang matawa ha.
Sige lang.
Throughout this pandemic, every weekday, kasi work day ko yun eh, work week, hindi ako gumigising nang hindi ako nagme-makeup. I don't know. I think it's psychological. It just gave me a sense that I have something to do today. And there is a reason I must get up, aside from the responsibility of our large employee base and their families, and decisions have to be made. And I don't know, parang yun yung very short moment in the day na for myself that I would recharge. And it kind of, maybe it's psychological, when you finally get your face painted, you feel like, okay, I'm ready.
Go.
Yeah, diba? No matter how vulnerable I feel, na maybe I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing, but I'm ready at least, to face the day and whatever challenges.
You'll slay the day. You'll slay the day.
But the other thing, what's new to me during the pandemic, it was my involvement with government. Talagang part of the belief in partnership. And I reached a point kasi where I was approached kasi CJ and I was asked to lead the communications for the private sector on top of my day job. Siyempre, di ba ang dami nang problema with the pandemic? But I had a great team eh. And they knew what they were supposed to do. They were very independent. And I knew I had to play the role also for the company to protect our interests, to also make our brand present naman outside in our company. But for me, the reason also for volunteering and still partnering with the government up to today, it's been 19 months. I got tired of people ranting and complaining.
Right.
I felt like, what? If this government can do anything right, then be part of the solution. Help. And that's why, I stopped with social media for a time. I didn't want to read na the complaints. Parang, no government had the playbook either to do this. And I know other governments have probably made better decisions. But I wanted to help and be part of the solution and not just complain.
That's a good point.
That's what drove me to say yes.
Yeah. Be part of the solution.
Yeah.
Be part of the solution.
Exactly. Like, even these upcoming elections. You know how people will complain about, ang tagal naman magpa-register. And yet, all of the malls have contributed their space.
Yep.
And I know they limit their slots to maybe 200, 300
right,
to manage the crowd.
Yeah.
And kailangan may distancing, may capacity concerns. But every person I've heard so far waits 4 to 5 hours. So when I hear stories na ayoko na lang kasi ang tagal hassle. At the back of my head, sige, Pero huwag kang magreklamo kung sino man ang umupo dyan at hindi mo gusto yung pagpatakbo nila ng bansa. Wala kang karapatan magreklamo kasi
I will
hindi ka
note.
nagtiis
Yeah.
ng
Correct.
4 to 5 hours to exercise your right to vote.
Ay, nako. Okay, we're talking about changes. The personal change you went through, the company went through. What about that family, the Filipino family that McDonald's talks to? How has the pandemic evolved Filipino family? How are they now?
Okay, at the start of the pandemic on Mother's Day, on 2020, no, Mother's Day 2020, the insight we had or the story that we put out the campaign, I still remember it. It's about the son, a teenage son, getting to know his mom and the dimensions of the mom na na-surprise siya. Na gamer pala yung mom, mahilig pala mag-videoke. Because we tend to see, I guess, the roles of each member of the family in the traditional sense. Whether it's daddy, going to work, mom also working, or mom at home cooking, and these are your ate and kuya. Parang I think we families got to know each other again, spend time together, and it helped our business in the sense that our delivery business really grew. In fact, our bundles, we call McShare Box, grew kasi they eat together eh. And then parang even the moment in the car, which is probably the next safest space to your home,
Yeah.
it's already an occasion. Halika, sakay tayo sa kotse, mag-drive tayo. Mag-drive-through lang tayo. So that also helped the drive-through business. We had another campaign. It was Ryan Agoncillo and Judy Ann Santos.
Their date.
Yeah, they had a date because the worst part about the pandemic, personally, is the monotony. It's because, in the beginning, it felt like, oh my God, it's a thrill. It's the long vacation that I've always wanted. Where, I can just stay home in my pajamas and, and you're all working from home and, because nobody knew naman what it was pa eh. And then, when you're past the 45-day mark, okay, maybe the others up to 90 days, it feels like, eto na lang ba? Parang, paulit-ulit. It becomes such a routine. It becomes monotonous. That's why we learn to value now the small, exciting things. Like, oh my God, may bagong episode ng Vincenzo na inaabangan every week. Yun na yung highlight ko for the week. Pero saya-saya ko, di ba? Or, it helped McDonald's because, naglabas kami ng Korean burger. And nagulat kami sa parang, wow! and it's not cheap, ha? I mean, it was medyo mid-price. And yet, people probably were just looking to break the monotony.
Correct.
Tapos, naloka ang mga tao nung nag-BTS meal pa.
Correct.
Okay, but even BTS, every time they have a new song, it's such a big thing. But it makes people happy. And I think we learn now to appreciate, maybe things that we took for granted.
So it's all about not taking things for granted. That's how the Filipino family has evolved. The little things that matter.
Yes.
And the family bonds that strengthen because of the pandemic.
Wow, you said it much better than me, CJ. Thank you.
Okay. I think my marketing is coming back. Okay. My last three questions. The first two of the three are crystal ball questions. The first one will be May Pasko 2021.
Meron yan. I'm sure at least sa NCR, na alert level 2 na tayo. Our vaccination coverage is actually very impressive in NCR. they've already hit about 89% fully vaccinated. And if you look at those who got one dose, that's already 98%. And of course, the minute they get their second dose, aabot ng 98% ang fully vaccinated of the adult population.
Okay.
So, I'm pretty sure in NCR may Pasko.
Check, may Pasko.
Yeah, and the rest of the regions are really determined to hit the target. They're preparing, in fact, for an epic National Vaccination Day,
Right.
all outside NCR, because they really want to jab as many Filipinos as we can, so that we will all have a better Christmas, which is really the vision. And we have supply. We have supply, CJ. Right. Yeah, so right. Hindi na issue yon.
Okay, next crystal ball question. Number 2, 2022. Are you bullish? Are you know, yeah?
Yeah,
I think it's recovery, rebuilding. What's it in 2 words?
Optimistic.
Okay.
But grounded.
Optimistic but grounded. Okay, let's hear this.
Yeah, optimistic because we've really seen a rebound this year.
Okay.
I think this is already the start of our recovery. By next year, we should already be going back to our pre-pandemic levels. And the reason it is so is I think we have to shift our mindset already. If we are still in crisis mode, then you will only have probably results that reflect that you are in a crisis situation. Early on, because of our decisions to invest in digital delivery and drive-through, which helped us survive the crisis, that already prompted us to say, this is a change in the business model. It works better than saying, oh my God, what happened to our dine-in business? When will it come back? If you're still in the mode of like whining, you will never get out of crisis mode. It's a mindset. Get out of crisis mode and start to plan for the future.
And that's for 2022. Now, my last question. Any final words to our audience, or mostly retailers, not in F&B?
I think everybody should stay optimistic. We're very hopeful, okay, because we're already seeing the coverage of vaccination, okay, get wider within the Philippines. And we all have a role to play. And I think that's part of what I was talking about on cooperation and partnership. Reach out and do your part. And the most basic thing now, CJ, is to get vaccinated and to convince somebody else who is not. That is really our answer to reopening our economy safely. I'm so envious of the other countries or cities like New York or California or Paris, where you are already seeing their economy reopen. Not fully, like it was, pre-pandemic, but they are already starting to go back to their new normal lives. And we are there. Our vaccination coverage in NCR is even better than New York. And we are there. And we just have to stay disciplined because in the end, we have to live with COVID the way we live with flu. That's why they call it an endemic. It's not going to go. Vaccination will not get rid of the virus. What it does is protect you from severe symptoms. So you don't get hospitalized and you don't die. And that's why if we love, our families, our friends, and they are hesitant, we should do everything we can to convince them. Because the more people are vaccinated, the better talaga for the country.
Okay. Thank you very much, Margot. Wow, that was It's going to be a very interesting podcast, and we thank you for spending time with us. So, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Margot Torres, Managing Director of McDonald's Philippines, joining us in Let's Talk Retail, the podcast. So again, thanks, Margot. I'm going to go back to my Coca-Cola, McDonald's, and my Happy Meal. Ladies and gentlemen, this is CJ, son of the Shangri-La Plaza. If you like this podcast, please subscribe. Click that red button and you'll get to see Margot Torres in this podcast, which is episode 23, and we're already on our first year. And thank you so much for your support. Thank you, Margot. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Philippine Retailers Association. This is CJ San again. Goodbye.